بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. So inshallah we're back again today, and we're looking at ayah number 52. And ayah number 52, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ثم عفونا عنكم من بعد ذلك لعلكم تشكرون. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala over here is saying, and we forgave you after that, so perhaps you would be grateful. So we learned in the previous two ayahs when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually saved them, from when they were taken away from when they were actually taken away from Fir'aun, and they were saved in the sea. So that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the ayah number 50. So the ayah was وَإِذْ فَرَقْنَا بِكُمُ الْبَحْرَ فَأَنْجَيْنَاكُمْ وَأَغْرَقْنَا آلَ فِرْعَوْنَ وَأَنْتُمْ تَنْظُرُونَ. And then recall that we parted the sea for you, and we actually saved you from Fir'aun, and we drowned them while you looked at them. Also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the next ayah وَإِذْ وَعَدْنَا مُوسَى 40 لَيْلَةً that we made an appointment with Musa, for 40 nights and 40 days. And then you were the one ثُمَّ اتَّخَذْتُمُ الْعِجْلَ مِنْ بَعْدِهِ وَأَنْتُمْ ظَالِمُونَ, that you were the one who was actually immersed in shirk after that, and you were the wrongdoers. Now Allah is saying, even after that, you were involved in that shirk. We have forgiven you, and we are the most forgiving. So despite their committing shirk, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave them. And shirk is a major sin. That's something that we need to know. In our day and age, we've got all different kinds of shirk that we as Muslims knowingly or unknowingly were involved in. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says indeed is the most forgiving, and He says He forgave them so that they could be grateful. Now I actually wanted to give you some definitions of shirk today. So understand, the previous ayah we spoke about, they were the ones who refused worshipping Allah alone, and they started worshipping a calf, and that was perhaps something that was was actually something that they were taken away from. But because they've lived in that servitude, in those shackles for so many years, they've actually been desensitized to that, and they don't have the ability to think otherwise. So therefore they fell into shirk, and Samiri was very, very easily, that guy deviated them, and they started worshipping other gods other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now shirk is one of the major sins which is unforgivable, and if someone dies with that, it's something, he probably is doomed. Why? Because this is something Allah actually has said in the Quran, that this is something that will not be forgiven. And the Quranic text is Inna Allah la yaghfiru an yushraka bih. Indeed, Allah does not forgive that a partner is associated with Him. Now basically, as Muslims, we need to understand that we have to worship Allah alone. And if we take someone else as a partner to Allah, this is breaking the covenant of our covenant with God, and something which actually will take us away from the fold of Islam, from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we will be at loss. Now, shirk has many forms. Very quickly, the three main and the basic forms of shirk are the shirk in knowledge, a shirk in power, and shirk in ibadah. Now, shirk in knowledge is ascribing partners to Allah in a matter of knowledge. For being believing that certain pious person or a spiritual master or a head or a mystical order knows about everything in this universe. So this is that shirk. So other forms could be of knowledge could be asking an astrologer, a fortune teller, a diviner about things that are going to happen or take place in a person's life. Things which belong to the unseen world, an exclusive domain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or to take omen or from the words written down by a pious person, or believing that it will happen because I have been told by someone. These are all forms of shirk. Or calling someone at a considerable distance and believing that the person has or become all aware of the call, and keeping a fast dedicated to someone other than Allah. So these are all forms of shirk, and one of the common ones, I mean, that comes to mind in particularly in our own countries. When we go back, you've got these big guys, and they are some shiukhs, and people are going to them and asking for help, and then they are making dua, and those things are coming about, and then you believe that this actually has come about because of this person. So that's shirk in knowledge. They've actually given your knowledge. Also, that is shirk in power. So you've actually given the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to a person that he knows about the unseen. Also, when people say that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had ilmul ghaib, I mean, as we believe that no, he did not have ilmul ghaib. This is something that is only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever Allah tells the Prophet, he knows. Whatever he doesn't disclose, he doesn't know. So shirk and power. This is ascribing to others the power and the right which are exclusive domain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, taking someone to have power and authority to provide a gain or inflict loss. It includes things like asking someone to grant your wishes or your du'as, and to ask for sustenance, and to ask for children. Again, very common in our places that we come from, where we see people, if they're not having children, they will go to these soothsayers and ask them, and then they will give them all that jazz that comes with that. Oh yeah, you do that, and you'll get a child. And also there are so many stories. I mean, not to mention also these people, these deviant so-called so-called people with power, actually involved in illicit relationships just to fulfill the needs of that person. Now, finally, is the shirk of ibadah, and this is something very, very common. So this is ascribing the or of a partner to Allah in acts of worship, which is solely the right of Allah. Now, some of the forms it could be are to go down in sajda for anyone, and this is again very common. I mean, we see people when they visit temples, they bow down. Our own Prime Minister, Imran Khan, actually, when he was entering a temple somewhere, or I think it was in a temple. He was saying, yeah, well, I call them temples. I mean, these places where shirk happened and the graves are there. So he entered and he bowed down. He actually went into prostration just before entering the place. So to release an animal dedicates the name of somebody. So, you just sacrifice an animal or someone else's name, or release it. Again, that is on someone else's name, is shirk in ibadah as well. Making ceremonies, offering for person or thing or living or dead, or to make vows, another in someone's name, and to make tawaf of someone's grave or the house, or to give preference to someone else's word or custom against the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or to make bows before anyone in the manner of ruku, so the bowing position peculiar to the Muslim prayer, to slaughter an animal in the name of someone, and the list is ever ending. So you got the influence of stars there. You got some people regard someone as ill-omened, wretched, and it's as I said, it's a long list. So these are, very quickly recap. So you got the shirk in knowledge, you got the shirk in power, and the shirk in ibadah. So all belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and whoever is involved in any of these things, he has deviated in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, grateful for what? Something that the question always comes, going back to the ayah. So they should be grateful. I mean, this is the ayah. That's what it's saying. So that he forgave them, so they should be grateful. So grateful for what? Because Allah gives the answer in there. I forgave you after that major sin. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alleviates our pain, sorrows, then we should express our shukr. We should be grateful that He brought relief to us. We should not be keep dwelling over our past, narrating stories of affliction to others. Rather, we should now use this time to be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and become productive and do more good deeds. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He benefits us for whatever we read today, and also safeguard us. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. O Lord, accept from us indeed your hearing and the knowing. وجزاكم